All right, today we're putting on our detective hats. But this isn't your typical whodunit. We're diving into the ultimate detective story, the one that's written inside every single cell of your body, your DNA. So let's set the scene. It's 2007, and a woman from Switzerland is trying to enter the US, but she gets stopped by immigration for hours. And the reason why is just bizarre. It wasn't a problem with her passport or anything like that. No, her problem was so unique it actually got nicknamed immigration delayed disease. So what was the issue? Get this, she had no fingerprints. I mean, none. Zero. Turns out she has this incredibly rare condition called adermatoglyphia, which is just a fancy way of saying a complete absence of fingerprints. Can you imagine? This incredibly strange trait launched a full-blown genetic investigation to figure out what on earth was going on.
But here's the thing. Trying to solve a genetic mystery in humans, it's really, really hard. I mean, we're not like fruit flies or bacteria that you can just grow in a petri dish under perfect lab conditions. No, for us humans, the real world throws a lot of curveballs at genetic detectives.
You've got three main roadblocks. First off, you can't exactly run a controlled experiment. You know, scientists can't just tell people, hey, you two, have kids for science. It just doesn't work that way. Second, our generation time is long, about 20 years. So if you want to track a trait, you're not waiting a few days, you're waiting decades. And finally, most human families are pretty small, which makes it super tough to spot any clear patterns of how a trait is passed down. So, with all those challenges, how in the world do scientists ever figure anything out? Well, they've come up with some seriously clever tools to act as their magnifying glass, reading the clues that are hiding right there in our family histories. And their number one tool in the toolkit? It's called a pedigree. Just think of it like a family tree, but for a genetic detective. It's basically a standardized map that lets them track one specific trait, like, say, missing fingerprints, through the generations, showing exactly who had it and who didn't. And reading one is pretty easy, because they use a simple universal code. A square is a male, a circle is a female. If the shape is filled in, boom, that person has the trait we're looking at. It's like a visual language that any geneticist anywhere in the world can understand. Okay, so back to our fingerprint mystery. When the researchers drew up the pedigree for this Swiss family, a huge clue just jumped right off the page. The missing fingerprints weren't some random fluke. Nope. The trait was showing up consistently in every single generation. And that right there points to a classic inheritance pattern called autosomal dominant. All that means is that the trait doesn't skip generations, and here's the kicker. You only need to inherit one copy of the gene from just one parent to have it. The pedigree made it crystal clear. Case closed. On that part, at least. All right, so pedigrees are awesome for these straightforward single gene traits like missing fingerprints. But what about the really complicated stuff? Things like asthma or intelligence or even your height. It's not just about one gene, right? Your environment plays a huge part. So how on earth do you separate nature from nurture? Well, for that puzzle, scientists turn to nature's very own perfect experiment, twins. You've got your identical twins, that's monozygotic, who come from a single egg splitting in two. They are, for all intents and purposes, genetically identical, 100% the same DNA. Then you have fraternal twins, dizygotic, who come from two separate eggs. They share about 50% of their genes, just like any other brother or sister. And the key idea here is a concept called concordance. It sounds fancy, but it's super simple. It's just the percentage of twin pairs where both of them have the trait you're studying. Now think about it. If a trait is heavily influenced by genes, you'd expect to see a way higher concordance in identical twins, wouldn't you? And that is exactly what we find. Take a look at this data for asthma in 4-year-old twins. For identical twins, the concordance rate is 65%. But for fraternal twins, it plummets to just 37%. That huge difference is a massive blinking sign that says, hey, genes are playing a big role here. But, and this is so important, look at that number again. It's 65%, not 100%. If asthma was only genetic, every single time one identical twin had it, the other would too. The fact that it's not 100 is proof that the environment matters. Things like where you live, the air you breathe, what you eat, all of that plays a huge part. So for pretty much any complex trait,
the answer to nature or nurture is always yes, both.
So, this ability to peek into our genetic code isn't just a cool science experiment anymore. Oh no, it's moved way beyond the lab and right into the doctor's office, helping everyday people make some really big, really personal decisions about their health and their family's futures. And this is where the field of genetic counseling comes in. Think of these counselors as translators or guides. Their entire job is to help people make sense of this super complex genetic information, understand their potential risks for inherited diseases, and walk them through all their options. For people who are thinking about having kids, this often means talking about prenatal genetic tests. You've probably heard of some of these, like amniocentesis or CVS, that's chorionic villus sampling. Both can check a developing fetus's DNA for certain genetic issues. There's always a trade-off, though. CVS gives you answers earlier in the pregnancy, but amniocentesis is often seen as having a slightly lower risk of complications. And that brings us right up to today, to the most modern and maybe the most complicated part of this whole story. We now have this incredible technology that's creating brand new ethical puzzles about the most private information we have, our own DNA. I'm talking, of course, about the explosion of at-home DNA tests. You've seen them everywhere. For $100 or so, you can spit in a tube, mail it off, and get a report about your family tree and even your potential health risks. And you can do it all from your couch without ever talking to a doctor. Now, the debate around these kits is intense. On one hand, supporters say this is amazing. It puts the power of genetic information into everyone's hands and helps people take charge of their own health. But on the other hand, critics are worried. They're concerned that people might misunderstand these complex results without a genetic counselor to explain them, and they raise huge red flags about what happens to your data. And that privacy concern, it leads to a very real, very scary question: genetic discrimination. I mean, could an insurance company use your DNA test to deny you coverage? Could a potential boss decide not to hire you because your genes suggest you might get sick down the road? It's a terrifying thought. Well, to try and prevent that from happening, the U.S. government passed a law back in 2008 called the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, or GINA for short. Basically, this law makes it illegal for most health insurers and employers to use your genetic info against you. But, and you really need to hear this is a huge but, GINA has some serious gaps. Its protections do not cover life insurance. They do not cover disability insurance, and they do not cover long-term care insurance. Those companies can still legally ask for your genetic data and use it to make decisions about your policy. So that's where we are. We're living in this incredible new world where the tools to read our own instruction manual, the book of life, are more powerful than ever. We're uncovering secrets about ourselves we never could have imagined. But it leaves us with one massive, pressing question for the future. Our DNA holds more secrets than ever, so who gets to read the book?